Ko tongariro te maunga, ko rotoara te moana, ko te arawa te waka, ko tūwhare toa te iwi, ko Ngāti he kairo te hapu, ko Otuko te marae, ko Tamsin Levy toku mama, ko Che Barlow toku papa, ko Cassius rātou ko Rain, ko River, ko Kutaina, ko Niwa Barlow ahau. Kia ora, my name is Niwa Barlow. I grew up in Wainui Mata, just over the hill, a little town in Wellington. Growing up, sports were always a heavy influence in my life. Played a lot of rugby, lots of athletics when I was younger. And then as I got a bit older, moved into a bit of league, squash, and eventually boxing. I was in Wainui till my intermediate years, and my first year of high school, moved up to New Plymouth, to attend New Plymouth Boys High School. My mother bought the Subway franchise in town, so if you're ever in New Plymouth, come support a local business, eh? But yeah, we moved up to New Plymouth my first year of high school. The league wasn't so prevalent up here, so it was more rugby orientated in the Naki. So got into that and made lots of friends who are still my best friends to this day. It was my second year at college when I started picking up a bit of kickboxing. I took a break from rugby, a year off rugby because I was getting manhandled, in short. So yeah, got back into kickboxing with the idea that not playing rugby, I'd be able to put some weight on a bit faster, fix my young ailments. Kickboxing, had about 3 fights my second high school year. Starting my next high school year, I went from 58 kgs to 94 kgs. So it was a big shift. Didn't have a lot of friends that year. Was definitely just doing my own thing. But yeah, high school was all rugby orientated for me after that. First starting fighting boxing down at Wainui Mata Boxing Club when I was about 12. And then there was this girl who I was dating at the time. And yeah, we broke up. After that, she got her new partner. And her and I were still in the same class, so we still had a lot of interaction. I remember one day after school, this fella comes up to me and he asked me if I want a shin kick to my head. And back then I was a little bit, I was a bit smaller, not too confident in myself. I was fast, when I was youthful, had a lot of energy. So I ran away, as you do if you're not the bigger guy. And the next day, my dad drives down to Wainui and he takes me to the boxing club. And that was where my fighting journey began in a small little boxing club.
Hey, so my name is Aaron and this is my facility here in New Plymouth, Taranaki. I'm born and bred here, but I worked in Australia for about 16 years in pro sport. I met Niwa back in 2020, actually, during the COVID period. I was back in between contracts in sport, and I've been Niwa's athletic, performance coach and high performance coach since then. So we've been on a journey for about 5 to 6 years now. I've seen how this kid has grown exponentially, and I guess what he's been through in many ways these last few years, no one really knows about. And it's just cool to see his progression as a man and a human, and I guess he's starting to kind of get the rewards and the notoriety of, the skills that he's got. And I'm just really excited that people get to see, another aspect of him within this, and also with what he's got coming on with his fighting side of things.
Yeah, I'd always really liked fighting. For me, I always understood, however, that the nation's resources and the sport development programs in this country are all centered around rugby. For me, rugby was a very business pursuit. There's a passion there in the sense that, you like ripping people up and, I guess it's a bit of ego stuff, like dominating people, but, eventually, for me, you go to a lot of these development camps and you hear a lot of the same message, which is that if you don't love what you're doing or you're not passionate about the sport, you're not going to make it. And I know for me, it used to always grate on me because I always used to think, rugby is a vessel for me to achieve other things. Like in that way, I acknowledge that I, appreciate it and I'm grateful. But I guess as you start to deal with politics, the politics of the sport, getting injured and how that affects you outside of that sport that you may or may not really like anyway. I guess if you don't enjoy the actual skills of the sport itself, you're not very motivated to improve them myself. Always an athlete first. Love my time in the gym. Love growing in there because I'm growing my physical body, but couldn't be bothered learning how to pass a ball. Couldn't be bothered learning how to kick. Those are the 1%ers in, that's the actual sport itself, So for me, I got to a point where I believe, I was applying myself well, and I was definitely in the mix and getting close, but I had a revelation that, I actually would rather be a poor fighter than a rich rugby player anyway.
So essentially with Niwa being a fighter, everything's based around movement and coordination. So I'm taking what he, I guess, needs to exhibit in his craft and try and replicate that as best I can in an environment, in a controlled environment such as the gym. So with his training, we do heaps of work of mobility, stability work, heaps of coordination drills, balance drills, all of the stuff that's going to make him be able to exhibit those attributes when he's fighting, of course. So big thing around fighters too is like their conditioning. So I guess the more conditioned a boxer is, then the less fatigued they'll be. And when they're less fatigued, hopefully they won't put themselves in bad positions that could then end up a result that you don't want. So everything we do is all around those attributes and trying to exhibit those in his best possible way. And he's just one of those guys that is just naturally so talented and naturally so gifted in the strength side of things that we kind of just have to be really smart with how we manipulate these variables to get the best out of him and not overload him too much or put too much weight on, because he sits quite heavily naturally and we've got to lose a bit of weight for this fight. So we've got to be smart with how we use all of these things with his next 7 weeks.
Now, rubbing shoulders with top people in this sport, and really seeing some development and some growth. I'm really satisfied with that decision, and you're just grateful to be where I am today, loving what I'm doing. Makes it a lot easier. Sure.
So good thing about the fight game, we know I guess how many rounds he's got, the time of each round, how much rest, so we can kind of manipulate those variables and then understand, I guess, what from a heart rate side of things, how that's going to impact on him. Then we can actually try and overtrain him for that environment. So everything I'm trying to do is make it harder for him here in a way than what it's going to be like in the fight. So we're over preparing him in a safe way, of course.
So over the last 3 months, been a bit of a tough one, eh? Obviously in December, I boxed Jordan Collins to gain me a spot on the long list for the Commonwealth Games, New Zealand Commonwealth Games boxing team, and then fighting at Dan Hooker's 1 minute scraps. Any code of fighting or instance outside of amateur boxing will get you stood down from that sport for 3 months. So competing in that arena meant for 3 months I wasn't able to do my due diligence around having international fights and kind of putting my name forward to be accepted by the New Zealand Olympic team. So unfortunately got dropped from that, which was sad, but understandable. We kind of knew that going in. For me, the opportunity to make $100,000 was massive. I've never had any money, and that's a lot of money. So we had a jam, took a gamble, came up short, won my first fight against a real big boy. He was massive ass. I was pretty gassed after that. And then in my second fight, I lost to Ola Hunt. Yeah, huge learnings for me. I've had 25 fights before that, never lost a fight. Anyway, I got knocked out the second fight at Dan Hooker's 1 minute scraps in front of millions of people. And I wake up and my dad and my brother are there supporting me, and they're crying, both of them. My mum calls me up and she's crying, and my other brother calls me up and he's a bit frail as well. I think for me, it was definitely a wake-up call in the sense that even if I step into that arena, I'm never on my own. You know, fighting for me, survival has never been my first priority. My first priority has always been expressing my art or some of the hurt that I've been carrying around. You know, when we first started fighting, it was all about survival, self-protection, whatnot. You know, then we started getting a little bit better at it, and it moved from just getting along to thriving, but trying to express other things apart from the pureness of the sport itself. You know, a lot of that raru that I carry, or the ways that I've been hurt, the sport of boxing, fighting, or any arena of that variety, I guess it feels like an acceptable place to express that. But indulging in those emotions also means that, you know, you're less in the flow of actually doing the thing itself, you know. So for me, getting knocked out, you know, seeing all the people around me get hurt, you know, was a tough stick to chew on. But I love this, and this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, you know. So understanding that and understanding how it can affect people around me, there was a shift for me in terms of, if I am going to keep doing this, my intentions when I'm performing that sport have to be a lot clearer and a lot purer. I am okay getting knocked out, doing what I love to do, if I have done everything within my own power and am coming at that from a point where I'm not trying to do something for someone else, and my main goal is to look after myself and I get knocked out. Sorry, that's who I am, and if you love me, that's part of what loving me is about.
So because Niwa's doing a sport that requires his body to move around in heaps of ways, heaps of our conditioning is based on him moving his body in a heap of different environments. So this kind of plyometric conditioning work is building his development, and I guess he's training his body and his mind to kind of work under fatigue consistently with the same amount of power continuously for rep after rep after rep.
3 months into the future, you know, life stuff as always, but with the sport, my first bout of fighting again was at Golden Gloves 2 weeks ago in Taranaki, where I had a fight on Saturday, a fight on Sunday, and a fight on Monday. Was able to win all three. I'd been out for 2 months, so I only had about 5 weeks of preparation. I was able to get the win in a really different fashion to how I usually win my fights. And I was really proud of myself, you know, coming back from being knocked out and doing that. It was a real choice. Yeah, I guess the only other thing that I've come to understand about fighting in the last 3 months, you know, when I got knocked out, and you know, it's every fighter's fear, bro. You don't know, well, it was my biggest fear. You know, I've been 25 fights, I'm an invincible fighter. What happens when that narrative gets changed, or, you know, how does that affect me going forward? But you go to sleep and you wake up, bro, and you're the exact same person, you know what I mean? I still like playing the flute, still like writing poems, you know, watch my anime with my brothers, you know what I mean? Like, nothing has changed about who I am just because something's been done to me. You know, it's a pretty vulnerable state to be in. You know, not the best angle. But you know, if I'm willing to have that happen to me and I'm okay with that, I think to me internally it proves a willingness to be there, or, you know, if I'm able to accept that, like, I know that this is what I'm meant to be doing. Like, I, you know, going forward, like, what more do I need to prove to people? And going forward for me, that means that I really don't have to buy into a lot of the riff-raff or the noise anymore. I'm just quite happy to do my own thing, and spit coming out of my mouth and my eyes rolling back into my head isn't enough to tell you that I love what I'm doing and I'm here for it. Then I don't think anything ever would. So coming up 7 weeks time now, July 31st, up in Auckland, fighting Takama Armstrong. So he was actually the one who took out my 1 minute script, going all through 5 rounds, 5 opponents, and 5 wins for $100,000. So congrats to him for that. Probably the biggest fight I've had on my resume to date. He's got a lot of noise and bad man reputation after all that. But I'm here to fight the best and to challenge myself. And I know that if I apply myself correctly, I continue to use the skills and the lessons that I've learned. Yeah, I'm just excited to go out there and kind of show what my developments have been, and in that hybrid style of fighting as well. Coming from a rugby background, I actually think it works in my favour. It's like a bit of a sambo rule set. So there's dirty boxing, which is like a long clinch, like you can hold for a long time. You can pull their head, as give them the chops, the classic fucking league scraps. But you're allowed to wrestle, pretty much wrestling above the hips. You can, you can lock them up, tip them over your shoulder, drive them into the ground. So it's nice and dirty, which is also down my alley. And being a rugby player, I feel a lot of, what the crossover to fighting was a lot of balance and weight distribution, understanding. So I actually think that that's more in my favour. And I'm definitely looking to incorporate my rugby style into a little bit of this fight as well, without getting too much into it. I'm looking forward to stepping into an arena and, and showing that I am someone who can learn from their failures and, to kind of show that I'm more than just an athlete in the sport, but actually a dedicated martial artist who cares about his art form and expressing that in a very practical and useful way, I guess. Lastly, just a bit of a thank you. The person that I am and the person that I have become is heavily influenced by the people around me. And a lot of the favourite parts that I smile about of myself, I know come from other people. Life's long journey. It's not just your friends or the people that are nice to you, which influence how you treat others as well. It's, your bullies or, people that dislike you too. So, without people, I don't know how you would ever find yourself too. So just to the trainers over the years, Wānui Boxing Club, Lance Saranki, Craig, Aaron, and everyone who's ever helped me along the journey. Big thank you to you. Obviously my family and my family that I made a long life. Those are my really close friends. You make life worth living. As always, my 3 younger brothers, the biggest gift I have, just being your brother. Just want to say that I'm really proud of you guys, and no matter what happens in your life or who you become, I'll always have your back, even if you don't turn out to be that good. It doesn't matter to me, I always love you. So yeah, big thank you to everyone on my journey, and tune in to these fights and fights beyond. And yeah, I'm definitely gonna push myself to the limit of what's possible for me. So, check. Lastly, Christmas in a February. Oh, what is this? These are not shorts. That's the thing in the shorts. Gangster. Take this tag off. How do they look? Yeah? Tough. Tough. Thank you. Eh? Yeah, I know. That'd be awesome. Thank you, bro. Appreciate it. Tough. They look like freaking league shorts. Just me. Boom.
Done.
Good?
Yeah.
Yeah, look cool. Yeah, cool, eh? What a cool guy. Excellent.